Hey Lotuses, I hope everybody's doing well today. I'm just here for a quick message, and today I want to talk about being offensive and being defensive. Are you being offensive or defensive in your life? Are you being offensive or defensive in your manifestation process? Are you being offensive or defensive with God? Those are really powerful questions, and I ran across this article in Best Self magazine, and it just kind of sparked my thoughts on having this conversation with myself and sharing the knowledge so that you can have this conversation with yourself. But before you answer those questions, be clear on what you think those two things mean. It is of two different energies when it comes to being offensive and defensive. So ask yourself if you're clear on what those mean. If you follow sports, you probably have a more solid answer because you kind of look at it from that perspective. But I'm just going to talk about some of the ways in which we can be offensive and some of the ways in which we're defensive. So being offensive means that we're being proactive. You know, how are you being proactive in times that it's necessary? And being defensive would be to be reactive. So asking yourself, am I being proactive in my life or am I being reactive? Are you making decisions and choices based on a proactive approach or a reactive approach? Are you waiting until something happens before you make decisions and choices, or are you trying to stay ahead of the curve, which means to be proactive means tapping into your intuition, following that the signs and synchronicity so you can be proactive, so that when things do happen, you're prepared to handle it. Now, there are times where we don't need to prepare. We just need to go with the flow and then react. That's you need to have a balanced approach in both of those areas. But being too reactive means that you're really not, you're allowing external circumstances to control your decision making, or to control your emotions and how you feel, versus being proactive. You know, if you're on a evolutionary journey, you know that there are going to be a lot of trials and tribulations you have to go through to peel back those layers for healing. Are you handling that proactively, or are you handling that reactively? Now, what is handling it, your evolutionary journey proactively? I would say that's getting to know yourself. If you're getting to know yourself during your evolutionary journey, you are actually being very proactive because you can study the trends. Okay, astrology, numerology, human design, all those things can really help you take a proactive approach to your evolutionary journey versus reacting every time Saturn teaches you a lesson, or Pluto puts you through a moment of deep transformation. Okay, another offensive tactic would be improving processes. Are you acting offensively, or are you acting defensively? Acting defensively means that you're playing it. You're focused on solving problems. Okay, that means you're only focused on the problems, and you're not really focusing on what's going right and improving that. Because a lot of times, if you just focus on improving the processes you have in play, you're going to automatically start to solve some of the problems. But if you're solely focused on solving problems, how am I going to make money? How am I going to, mend my broken heart, or whatever, how am I going to fix myself versus how am I going to improve myself? Okay, see, that's two different approaches. When you ask yourself how you're going to fix yourself, you're only looking at the problem, and the problem that you have is that you feel broken. But if you're asking how you're going to improve, you're telling yourself that there are a lot of right things. I just need to improve on those so that those things that aren't going right can improve themselves and solve themselves. On the offensive, are you maximizing your return, Or are you being defensive and minimizing your risk? How much risk are you taking on this journey? Whether it's business, whether it's your evolutionary journey, how much risk are you putting out to maximize on that return? If you're only putting in 20% because that feels safe to you, you're not going to be able to maximize your return. But if you're just risking it all, and I'm really speaking on this evolutionary journey. If you're willing to risk it all, the return on that investment of yourself is going to maximize a reward that you never saw coming. But you won't get there if you're trying to be on the defensive and minimize your risk. I'll do this, but I'm not going to do that because then I might lose. So now you're kind of playing it safe. You're just playing it safe, staying in your comfort zone. And even if you take a foot outside the comfort zone, it's not enough to create new territory. It's still within the safety. You're afraid to get that root chakra out of whack so you can rebuild it. On the offensive, are you trying something new? Or are you just maintaining the ways that you have and thinking you're going to get some different results? See, a lot of people don't understand that the courage that it takes to try new things. Yeah, you can go to the store and try a new look, try a new nail color, try a new eye color, but it's not easy removing yourself from people that bring you comfort and safety so that you can figure out who you are. It's not easy going to new places and spaces trying to find your way. And I'm speaking on an inside level. It's not easy tapping into new areas of yourself that you've never seen before, good or bad. It's not easy creating new habits and lifestyles, especially if you're not a type of person that wants to maximize their returns. You just want to minimize your risk. Again, you're focused on what you can lose by your evolutionary journey versus on what you're going to gain by your evolutionary journey. So you're not willing to try new things. And this is what it's all about. You got to try new things. You have to open your mind to new ideas, concepts, processes, systems. You can't be stuck in the programming and the conditioning that you grew up with, because if that were working for you, you wouldn't even be on an evolutionary journey. You wouldn't have no point in even being here. You and I wouldn't have to have this conversation. Okay, offensively, are you creating new connections, or are you only focused on the competition? And I say competition because are you focused? Are you willing to create new connections in your life that vibrate on the level that you're on now? And it's not about being better than anybody, higher, lower, whatever. It's just, are you willing to take the chance to create new connections that are going to help you elevate to the vibration you desire, that are going to help you on your evolutionary journey? Or are you going to try to maintain these relationships that now feel like you have to compete or you have to conform in order to deal with? What are you going to do? So asking yourself, am I playing the offensive or am I playing the defensive? Because if you're completely playing the defensive and you're on an evolutionary journey, you are going to have very little progress, because the tribe that you create when you're solely being controlled by your ego versus the tribe that's created when you're following your soul and your ego is healthy is going to be very different, unless the people around you right now are on their own evolutionary journey. And 9 times out of 10, that's not true, because many of the relationships that we developed while we weren't on the soul path were probably here to help with the conditioning process. They were here to help deliver the lessons we needed and to help create the circumstances to even get on the evolutionary journey. And it's not always bad, good or bad. So, again, for people who like to journal, this might be some good, information to sit down and journal with and think about. And again, ask yourself, am I on the offensive or defensive in my life? Am I on the offensive or defensive in my business? Am I on the offensive or defensive in my evolutionary journey? And am I on the offensive and defensive with God? All right, Lotuses, until next time, love and light.